strength of one, but the union makes us.
Everybody, to the celebration that we're about to enjoy in honoring those brothers and sisters that made it possible for us to meet today. My name is Bob Vicars. I'm chairman of the Retired Workers Chapter. I was appointed Master of Ceremonies to handle some of this operation. My first duty is to introduce some speakers. In fact, just one speaker. But in any event, you know, when we first talked about having a dedication to those brothers and sisters that we owe so much to, we received nothing but cooperation from the officers and the executive board of this local union. And they did not hesitate to jump on board. And without their help and without their cooperation, this fine picnic and this dedication would not be possible. And with that, without any further ado, please put your hands together and welcome Brother John Jarstead, President of your local union.
Thank you, Bob. Worried about rain today. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day to celebrate this occasion of thanks to our retirees, our sit-downers and retirees who came before us to give us what we have now. I want to thank everybody in the audience that come out, family, friends. There's politicians out here that came out here today. I want to invite all of you and thank all of you for coming. After 44 days from the beginning of the strike, GM, one of America's largest and most colossal companies, as the Fortune magazine stated, agreed to recognize the UAW and negotiate a contract. The working people had triumphed. In various plants around the country, workers had to endure court injunction, the turning off of heats in the plants, thugs harassing families, blocking of food shipments to the sit-downers, police attacks with billy clubs and tear gas. The union, our union, held firm for 44 days. I stand here today because of these people who endured 44 days of hell so the UAW could be recognized. And look what it got us. Seniority, job security, representation, a grievance procedure, guaranteed wage increases, paid holidays, paid vacations, short work week benefits, insurance, pensions, and how much more stuff. It just keeps going on and on. I would like to thank from the bottom of my heart people that have joined us today, some of which are going to be recognized later by Brother Vicars, but I want to thank Vice President of the International UAW in charge of GM, Dick Shoemaker, Region 4 Director Paul Corman, International Servicing Rep Donnie Douglas, Director of our union's Retired and Older Workers Department, Walt Williams, Administrative Assistant to Vice President Shoemaker, Jim Beardsley, Assistant Region 4 Director Dennis Williams, Sub-Regional Director Roger Anclam, and Chairman of our Local 95 Retiree Chapter, Bob Vicars, who, because of him and his committee, that's where the idea for this monument was born. And to all the past presidents from Local 95, and sorry to say that there are no past presidents from Local 121 that are living, but God rest their souls. Picture up here in back of me is the way I understand, from our brothers and sisters from Local 121. To all past and present officers in attendance of this local, both administrative and those in representation, members, families, and friends, I join all these people that I have mentioned in attendance here today in saying and giving a heartfelt thank you to especially you, the sit-downers, right down here, the sit-downers, who we honor today. We honor these sit-downers today with this monument, and also to all the retirees of this union that followed in your footsteps to ensure a promising future for all of us. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming, everybody. I'll give it back to the chairman of the retirees, Bob Vicars.
Nice job, John. However, I was going to introduce some of the people you've already introduced. He stole my thunder again. Of course, he is the president of the local union, and he has the right to upstage me anytime he wants to. But speaking of local union presidents, our local union has been blessed for many years with the kind of leadership, you know, that a lot of local unions and other organizations really would like to have. And we were blessed by them. And we have with us today, and when I introduce and read their name, if they would please stand up, they are past presidents of this local union. And I think that each one of them, I normally would say hold your round of applause until the end, but I think each one of them deserves their own accolades. And I would like to start by introducing Brother Bob McNatt. Brother Herb Sainsbury. Brother Mike O'Brien. Got a lot of Irishmen in the crowd today, Mike. Brother John Donor. Brother Bruce Penny. Brother Jim Beanash. Brother Eldred Melky. Brother Laverne Frisk. I will now read the names to the best of my memory of some of the individuals except for one. I had an opportunity to... I missed one. My old buddy Michael Marks. Put your... He told me I'd screw up sooner or later. In any event, to the best of my memory, I'll read some names of those of 21 and Local 95 who are deceased. And I think after I get done reading their names, I would appreciate that if you would honor their memories with a moment of silence. Of course, Elmer Yenny, Chevrolet, Wesley Van Horn, Fisher Body. By the way, they were presidents of both local unions when the sit-down occurred. Homer McKnight, Chevrolet. Darwin Waggy, Chevrolet. Cleo Keel, Fisher Body. Gaylord Sagan, Fisher Body. Paul Shank, Chevrolet. And Don Dooley, Local 95. Oh, pardon me, one of my dear friends, I forgot him. Charles Rosenthal. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you very much. While I'm making introductions, I'm not going to do it on a name-for-name basis because I'll probably screw that up too. But in any event, the very brothers and sisters that we are honoring today, we've got them all lined up in the front row under that canopy. And what I would like to have you do right now is tell them what you think of them and what they did for us. And gentlemen, would you please stand up for your acclamation? They weren't present. They weren't Gregory was president, Acton wasn't. You know, it's been quite some time since the sit-down in January of 1937. And the things that those families had to go through in organizing a union, fighting a company union, was something most of us never had to face. But I can tell you that without the support of the family, that struggle may not have come out the way it did. For there's a saying, behind every good man, there's a better woman. Will the surviving spouses of the sit-downers please stand for their acclamation? I hope most of you heard that our program got a little mixed up when it went to the printers. We had some of the sit-downers who were deceased listed, others who were not listed, but we finally worked that out, and as the president of our local likes to hear, we winged it, JJ, and we came out on top. Today we celebrate and honor brothers and sisters who belong to the United Auto Workers of America, CIO, in both Chevrolet and Fisher Body plants here in Janesville. When on January 5, 1937, they laid down their tools, sat down, and refused to leave the plants, they joined thousands of others across this country in other General Motors plant who did the same thing. As a result of their dedication and their courage, and without a doubt their sacrifices, our union since its birth has struggled and succeeded in bringing a great measure of social justice and economic security to all workers and their families. Proof of their success in 1937 and of others who followed them can be found in the current General Motors and local agreements right here in the city of Janesville. We, brothers, will be forever in your debt. I am honored to be with you and to converse with you today and honor you in the fashion that you so much deserve. Thank you again. And with that, for a purpose of another introduction, I'll bring back to the podium Brother John Jarstead, President of Local 95. I just got reminded I missed Don Bernstein. He was a Chevrolet guy. He's deceased. He was the president of the local union. And Mike O'Brien pointed out that I also missed Stan Gregory, who came out of Local 95 and Fisher Body. I apologize for that.
Before I make my introduction here, I just want to recognize some other international reps we have sitting here in the back row here. Mike Flores, do you want to stand up? Stan Geis, Cleveland Ware, and out of our local, one of our past financial secretaries, Ron Monat. And also one of our past presidents, who is now in the international staff, is Bruce Penny. Paul Corman was first elected director of UAW Region 4 on June 14, 1995, at the UAW Constitutional Convention in Anaheim, California. Corman had served as an assistant director of UAW Region 4 since his appointment to that post on July 15, 1984, by then Region 4 Director Bill Stewart. Corman had served for 16 years on the Region 4 staff as an international representative prior to being named an assistant director. Corman has been a member of the UAW since 1955, when a certification election at International Harvester Company brought the members of the farm equipment workers, including Farm Equipment Local 101, in which Corman was a member, into the UAW. Corman quickly became active in UAW Local 1301, representing his fellow workers at the International Harvester Tractor Works in Chicago as a shop steward, a member of the local union executive board, and a member of the local 1301 negotiating committee. After the closing of International Harvester Plant and local 1301, Corman transferred his UAW membership to UAW local 1643 in Libertyville, Illinois. A veteran skilled tradesperson, Corman holds a UAW journeyman's card as a millwright. From 1968 to 1984, he carried out servicing responsibilities involving UAW members at the International Harvester, Caterpillar, JICase, Dresser, and a number of aerospace and auto industry suppliers and in independent plants. From 1966 until his appointment as an international representative on April 24, 1968, he served the UAW on temporary assignments. He has long been active in politics as a member of the Illinois Democratic Party and has worked on behalf of a number of Democratic candidates in Illinois for the U.S. Senate and other seats. He is also a member of the NAACP. He was graduated from Harrison Technical School, and he attended Illinois Institute of Technology, both in Chicago. He was born on April 27, 1935 in Chicago, and his wife Sandra have a son Paul, a daughter Loretta, and 4 grandchildren. They reside in Gurnee, Illinois. They pride themselves on being part of a union family. Paul's father, Paul Corman Sr., and Sandra's father, Willard Klepser, are both retired members of UAW Local 1301 at the former Harvester facility. I would like to thank Paul for coming here today. He's a dear friend of everybody here at Local 95, trusted confidant, Paul Corman.
Thank you all. First of all, let me join with Brother Bob Vicars in thanking the officers and the members of Local 95 for the invitation to be here today. And I also want to commend the leadership of Local 95 for the roles each of you have played in putting together this dedication ceremony to honor the sit-downers of 1937. I think most of you will agree it's important for us to look back and understand our history. Our union was built by people's dreams, by their aspirations for a better life, for themselves, for their families, and certainly for those of us who would follow them. And I'm sure that there are not many members of Local 95 today could even imagine working without a seniority system, without a grievance procedure, or without representation, and all of the other things that ensure due process in the workplace. And I think it would be just as difficult for them to comprehend wages that provided a worker with the bare necessities for themselves and their families to survive on. Or imagine, if you can, having no health insurance for yourself or your family. Or imagine being called a socialist or maybe even a communist because you advocated the negotiations of a pension plan. The struggles were many, and the sit-down was a tactic, just one of many used by our union, the UAW, to achieve recognition along with contracts that today provide our members with a living wage and benefits to provide security for themselves and their families. We in the labor movement, and especially those of us in the UAW, have worked hard and long to enjoy good wages, good benefits, and good health care. We have prodded and pushed to maintain our hard-won gains of the past and to further protect those gains from politicians and greedy profiteers who seek to puff up their personal fortunes at our expense. I think the challenges that we face today, as we see the evolvement of what we call a global economy are much more complex. Solutions certainly will require the same kind of commitment by those who came before us. And we cannot continue to move forward if the mindset of our membership is to let the other guy do it. I think the motto of our union, solidarity in the ranks and teamwork in the leadership, is one that all of us can be proud of. And I think you all will agree that we must continue to protect each other. We need to continue to protect our contracts and certainly to continue to build our great union in the same tradition that the sit-downers did back in 1937 right here in Janesville. And join with me in applauding them again. And again, let me give a special thanks to the president of the local, John, and all of the leadership here at Local 95 for the help that you continue to give the region and the support that you provide us when we call on you. I certainly appreciate it. And I just want to say to the sit-downers, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today to honor those who were willing to fight many years ago so that I could enjoy a better way of life today. Now, what's not on the agenda, because I guess we didn't get that to the printer either, I also have the privilege of introducing somebody that I've been involved with in the labor movement with. The two of us together have spent all of our adult lives doing that. Both of us come out of Ag Imp. And let me tell you a little bit about the person I'm going to introduce. Dick Shoemaker was elected an international vice president on June 14, 1995 at the UAW's 31st Constitutional Convention in Anaheim, California. Shoemaker has served as Executive Administrative Assistant to President Bieber, Administrative Assistant to Vice President Jokic, Assistant Director of Region 4, and an international representative of the UAW. In Brother Shoemaker's many capacities, he has served several departments, including Ag Imp, General Motors, Chrysler, the top section of our union, organizing, NUMMI, and Mitsubishi. As Executive Administrative Assistant to the President, Dick also supervised the activities of coordinated contact between UAW headquarters and the union's regional offices throughout the country. He joined the UAW in 1957 in November when he hired in at John Deere and Company in East Moline, Illinois. He rose quickly through the ranks of Local 865, serving as steward and a term as shop committee person before becoming, at age 27, the youngest person to be elected president of Local 865. He served 2 terms as Local 865 president. Dick is the father of 5 and is married to his lovely wife, Mary. And let me just say on a personal note, I spent a lot of time with him, and I think that he, along with President Jokic, served this union very, very well in the last set of negotiations. The media that is here, and I don't know about Janesville, was absolutely convinced that somewhere in automobile we were going to have a strike. Didn't know if it was going to be Chrysler, didn't know if it was going to be Ford. Many thought it was going to be GM. We were able to avert a strike at Ford, at Chrysler, and certainly at GM. And we came out with one of the richest agreements ever negotiated by our union. And I can tell you, it was due to the kind of leadership that President Jokic and especially my friend Vice President Dick Shoemaker provided us with to get us there. With that, give a warm welcome to Vice President Dick Shoemaker.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Paul, for that kind introduction, and all of you for that warm reception. I'm pleased to be here with my longtime friend, fellow International Executive Board member, Region 4 Director Paul Corman, his capable assistant, Dennis Williams, your local president, John Jarstead, your shop chairman, Terry Myers, obviously the officers of this local union, the honorees that are here, the original set-downers, your retiree chapter, again, a longtime friend, past director of Region 10, Bob Vicars, and of course, all of my brothers and sisters from Local 95, retired and active, friends all. It's always a pleasure to come home to Region 4, where I've had so many friends over the years. It's a real pleasure to walk in and see old friends like Michael Bryan and Bob McNatt and others who I haven't saw for a number of years. As many of you know, my roots are here. This is my region. It was in this region that both my character and my personal trade union ideology was shaped, was molded, and it was tempered. I'm pleased to bring you greetings from President Jokic and the entire International Executive Board. President Jokic wanted to be here today, could not be, unfortunately, because of prior commitments. I deeply appreciate both the invitation and the opportunity to join all of you here today to honor our brothers and sisters who decided in 1937 to stand up to General Motors for themselves and for working men and women everywhere. We certainly owe a great debt to them, one that we will never fully repay. By their actions, they forged what was then the world's largest and most arrogant corporation to recognize a small and a fledgling union, the UAW. And in so doing, they changed the direction and the history of this country. Those set-downers joined with workers across this country, from the Atlantic to the Pacific, in cities like Detroit, Flint, Chicago, Kansas City, Atlanta, and 1,000 other places across the United States and Canada, winning recognition of the UAW and other unions from their employers. And by their actions, those early UAW members began to satisfy that longing for freedom and dignity and for security and increased prosperity that rests deep inside every man and woman in every human being. That first contract with General Motors looked nothing like today's agreement, but it meant that workers could talk to their boss about injustices without being fired. Seniority finally meant something, and workers no longer had to bring the boss a birthday gift to keep a job. It established the UAW as the bargaining representative for General Motors at General Motors, and it provided for negotiations on issues of concern to the workers and their union. It was the foundation for all that we have achieved today at General Motors. A revolution had started that swept across America, and it dramatically changed the American workplace forever. That revolution continues today. It will continue tomorrow and the day after. It will continue next year and the year after that, and through this decade and the next, and through this generation and the next. And it will go on and on. It will continue because workers around the world know in their heart, I know in mine and you know in yours, that we're entitled to more opportunity than is available, to a more equitable share of the world's wealth than we currently receive, to more security than we have achieved, and to be treated with more dignity than we are, and to continue to improve the quality of life for each of us and our families. For over 60 years, following those historic set-down strikes, workers have journeyed down a road that led to progress for them and their families, a journey that started with the action of the heroic set-downers here at Local 95 and elsewhere. They journeyed down a road that was carved out of an industrial wilderness by the workers themselves, a road paved by workers through constant struggle, sacrifice, and in many instances their blood, and in all too many cases their lives. And as they traveled down that road, workers achieved dignity and a larger measure of security. They were successful in redistributing wealth on a more equitable basis. We could finally afford to buy the automobiles and other products that we manufactured, homes for families. The dreams of securing an education for their children suddenly became a reality, not just a high school education, but a college education. And as they went down that road, they improved not only the quality of life for themselves and for their families, they built a better America and a better world, and they did it collectively. They knew that workers have to journey through life together if they're going to make progress. They understood the meaning of the words in the song Solidarity. There is no power more feeble than the weaker strength of one, but it's the union that makes us strong. Those early set-downers and the millions who followed them knew that they had to stand up and be counted, and they did. They helped organize the industries in which they worked, not just the factories where they were employed. They struck where they worked when they had to, and they frequently participated in strikes involving other workers when it was helpful. They understood that they had a responsibility to help their union achieve its goals, and they gave freely of their time in those endeavors. Whole industries were organized, and millions of workers joined union, and they had tremendous power. The power to make corporations say yes when they really very badly wanted to say no. The power to influence our government's legislative programs and priorities, and to elect candidates friendly to their cause. And as a result, more Americans began to understand and accept that labor was not a narrow self-interest group that cared only about its members. They began to understand that when workers made progress, that meant everyone made progress. As I said at the start, we are all deeply indebted to all of the set-downers, and including those who are with us here today. It's indeed a fitting tribute to their courage, their determination, their commitment, and their achievements that today we dedicate this beautiful monument in their honor and in their memory. It is a lasting reminder to all of us that the road to progress is not an easy one, but it's a road that can be traveled if we travel it together. Many wonderful things have resulted from the determination and the sacrifice of those set-down strikers. But I believe the most important lesson that working people can win, that we can prevail over the rich and over the very powerful, and we can make a better life for ourselves and our families and our communities and for workers around the world when we stand united in solidarity for objectives we know are right. Let this compelling monument stand as a powerful reminder of how far we have come and how much we can accomplish when we take action together. Make no mistake, my friends, the road to progress is not a road that's easy to travel. It's bumpy, it's full of potholes, and it's steep. It's straight up all the way. And oftentimes we need a reminder, like this monument, that we did not get where we are by accident, by a gift, or by the generosity of management's heart. Walter used to tell us, and some of you will remember this, that corporate America has a computer for a brain and a cash register for a heart. And you can put everything they gave us in your good right eye and it won't impair your vision one bit. What we have achieved was the result of our vision, our determination, our sacrifice, and our solidarity. No matter how steep the road, if we stand together, march together, and struggle together, we'll win together. We'll turn our dreams into reality, and we'll continue the UAW's proud legacy of progress that started with those workers who sat down in 1937. We'll leave our country and the world a better place than we found them. To our set-downers and our retirees, we deeply appreciate all that you have done for us. On behalf of President Jokic and the entire International Executive Board, I say to each of you, thank you for what you've done, for what you did, and for your continued support. To my brothers and sisters at Local 95, I say to all of you, I appreciate very much the opportunity to come here. I appreciate the support that we have received from you since President Jokic and Paul and I and others went into office, and together, collectively, moving towards common goals, focused on common objectives, we will continue to make the progress in the future that we've made in the past. Thank you for having me here. Good luck and God bless. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Shoemaker, for that stirring speech. And brothers and sisters, he meant every word of it. Before I forget it, a lot of planning and things went into this celebration. And before I forget, there's some people I better just call them by the committee's name rather than individuals, or I'll get in trouble and forget somebody. But we had a picnic committee in Local 95. There's about, I think, 8 or 9 people on that, and they had quite a bit of input in the planning of this celebration. And I'd like to let you put your hands together and give them a round of applause for that. And then, of course, Brother Jarstead, the president, appointed a dedication committee, which I was privileged to be a part of. So was Brother Bill Bridenstine, our secretary-treasurer of the chapter, and the officers of the local union. And again, they had some input, and they gave some good ideas. And we had all kinds, as I said before, of cooperation from these individuals, and we really appreciate that. I think they deserve a round of applause. And last but not least, it's the executive board of the Retired Workers Chapter of Local 95, which I've had the privilege to work with for almost 10 years. And I'll tell you, without their cooperation and without their input and insight, this would not have came to fruition. And there's a beautiful, very beautiful African black marble salute to our brothers and sisters of the 1930s. And we're going to be unveiling that very shortly. But it was brought to my attention that the community of Janesville is concerned and enthused about us having such a celebration, and I was told that the city manager, Steve Schaffer, is here. I don't know where he's at, but would you raise your hand? There he is. And we're now going to get into the unveiling of that beautiful monument. And what I'd like to do, since it's your monument, fellas, If you need any help, that's fine, but I want you all to come up here and surround this thing. You are going to be taking that shroud off and doing the unveiling. So can you make it up here and get around the monument? There's some photo ops they want to take of you.
When the Union's inspiration through the workers' blood shall run, there can be no power greater anywhere beneath the sun. Yet what force on earth is weaker than the feeble strength of one? But the Union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the Union makes us strong. They have taken millions from us that they never toiled to earn. But without our brain and muscle, not a single wheel could turn. We can break their haughty power, gain our freedom while we learn that the Union makes us strong. Solidarity.
When the sit-down strike happened, what job were you on at that time?
I was on a job on the truck line, and to the best of my recollection, I was bleeding brakes, and I think I was putting on a motor mount bolt at the same time while we were doing this.
Do you remember the day that it all came down?
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about it.
Well, it was shortly after lunch, about 1 o'clock, and all of a sudden there was quite a bit of commotion, and the line stopped, then it started up again, and it stopped again, and I think it started again. This happened 2-3 times, and quite a bit of yelling, and then stuff started flying, and nuts, bolts, wrenches, and so on and so forth, and somebody hollered strike, and then they started gathering in groups.
As I understand it, the foreman, they didn't realize as to what was happening.
Nobody did. No, we had no forewarning of it.
So, kind of picture it for us. They started gathering in groups, just sitting down? Is that what we should picture in our minds?
Well, didn't actually sit down. We gathered in groups, and they were trying to get, some of the guys kept on to work, and tried to get them to stop, and so on and so forth. And of course, when they finally realized what was actually happening, quite a number of the people left the plant, just walked out. And the people that were the actual strikers stayed in and went around and just tried to stop everybody from working.
Tell us about the working conditions before the strike. What brought this all on?
Well, the thing that brought it all on was you just worked constantly. There were no breaks whatsoever. It was impossible to even get a drink of water. And I look back, I don't know how we ever got to go to the bathroom or anything. There was very little relief and so on and so forth. You had a half an hour at noon to eat lunch and go to the bathroom and get a drink of water, and that was about it. You were back on the line again.
So if you came into work and you had to go to the bathroom or you were feeling ill, what could you do?
There wasn't an awful lot you could do, because you didn't have any real security. And of course, jobs back at that time were pretty hard to get. And there were people sitting right out in what they called a bullpen out there, and if you couldn't do the job, you could get fired right on the spot, and they bring somebody else in to take care of it.
Howard, do you remember what job you were on the day of the strike?
Yep, I was on the dump truck hauling from the back to the plant down to the dump out in the back.
And as you remember it, tell us in your own words what happened. Did you know what was going on at first?
Well, I knew it was coming that day because I was on the board. We didn't know what time. Only 4 of them knew, Vice President and Vice President of each union. I'd take a load out all day and hurry back. And they caught me when I was out in the dump.
What did the foreman think of the strike? What were they thinking as this was going on?
Well, they fired everybody right then.
But that wasn't, as I understand it, wasn't very uncommon. It didn't take much to get fired.
No, it didn't take much to get fired. If you didn't dare. If you don't like it, why, there's the door, the bullpen's full, and they weren't fooling, it was.
What are some of the silly things you could get fired for before the strike?
Well, practically anything. Not speaking to the boss okay or whatever.
Well, I'll tell you, it was something that had to be kept more or less secret, because at that time, any time that you mention union and things like that, what I mean, people are, you could get laid off or you could get fired. Let's put it that way, what I mean. It was something that was kept up until the very last minute. And of course, we discussed a lot of that at the Union Hall. But of course, we didn't exactly know the time, the date when this was all going to take place, see? So eventually, what I mean, we had to make it a point, and it was...
You were mentioning you're a young man, and
Yes. I was a young man, and at that particular time, it wasn't that important to me as it was to some of the people with a large family, what I mean. And those days, depression was just over with, what I mean, and we needed the job, and everybody was, what I mean, we had to work to make a living.
how did the townspeople treat you during?
Well, that was another story. That was, let's put it this way, we were sort of red herrings. What I mean, it wasn't accepted by everybody, what I mean. It's one of those things that they didn't all accept.
How was the treatment, before the strike versus after?
Well, after the strike, it sort of eased up. But what I mean, before the strike, there was a lot of talk, what I mean, how foolish we were to do anything like that, and to even attempt it, what I mean.
How does it feel to have been, part of that?
Well, I was young, and what I mean, like I said before, it wasn't quite important to me as it was to some of the older people and some of the people with a large family. I gotta admit that, what I mean.
If you were going to send one message to a local 95 member right now, say someone new, what would you tell them?
Well, it's one of those things that had to be done. What I mean, we worked on it and we couldn't get anywhere until finally we struck. What I mean, it was one of those things that it was hard to do, but it had to be done.
You remember what it was like before the strike?
Well, you bet I do.
How much were you making?
Huh?
How much were you making?
Well, I started at 45 cents for 3 days, and when I went on piecework, paid 60 cents an hour.
How much did it go up after the strike, your wages?
God, I don't remember that.
Well, do you remember, was it easier to work down there after the strike?
Well, not for a while. It finally worked out better. But you had to work. We had 10-minute break in the morning, 10-minute break in the afternoon. But you worked 20 minutes longer at night to make up for those 10 minutes.
Do you remember what it was like? How did the townspeople treat you? Were they friendly or supportive, or?
Oh, no, they were all right, yeah. Had no problem, I don't think, No.
Okay, do you remember, was there any special issue, that precipitated the strike, or it was just a accumulation, or what?
Oh, they just talked about it. I don't know. I think they wanted better conditions for us guys. Yeah.
Do you remember the day of the sit-down strike? Do you remember?
Very well.
All right, tell us about it.
Well, we knew it was coming. I was a stock chaser at that time. And, we used to have truckers on the end of the lines. They used to, when the body come to the end of the line, they truck it around and started on another line. And foremen there were around, but they didn't want the line to stop, which they should have stopped. The bodies start piling into one another, and then they were wondering what the hell was wrong. I said, there's a strike, and it was kind of unusual for them. But it wasn't a good place to work, because you never know if you had a job when you come in the morning. If the boss didn't like you, he'd fire you anyway, or whatever it was. And I know that off the record, a lot of them foremen and general foremen would borrow money from you. You'd never get it back.
Wow. Now, when the strike happened, how important was it that the guy on this side and the guy on this side, you all were going to act as one?
Hey, none of us, we didn't know. We never had nothing, and it was risky. We didn't know if we were going to have a job when they got through or not.
But it was rough, you know, on a July day when you're,
Oh, sure.
it's hot and the sweat running out of your shoes, you know, and stuff like that.
I imagine they didn't have any fans and fountains and all that too. So did that come shortly after the contract, or was that something that was a gradual thing?
Oh no, that gradually got better. Yeah.
Was there a particular reason, or was it just all of a sudden everything just came to a head?
Well, you mean when they went on strike? Yeah, well, I don't think too many people in the plant knew that there was going to be a sit-down strike. I didn't know. I knew they were going to go on strike, but I didn't know that they were going to sit down there and stay down there that night, you know.
Do you know how the people at Janesville felt about you guys? You know, did they feel one way or the other?
I think they were with us, yeah, because after the picket lines were set up, boy, they bring soup down and different things like that. So they were pretty much with the strikers.
Do you remember the reason for the sit-down strike in 1937?
Yes, it's kind of bad working conditions.
Okay.